Hello, my name is Jose San Miguel, and today I'm going to do my gun right control for my speech class. To my right is my girlfriend Dacia, and to my left is my little sister Katie, and today they would be my audience for this presentation. Picture yourself working a late shift, and you're on your way home from work, and as you reach the curb of a stop sign, someone comes up behind you and mugs you. You're all alone. You have no one to turn to. They steal all your belongings. What do you do next? What are your outs? How do you respond to that type of situation? There was a case in Houston, Texas, where a lady who had worked at a local cafe was on her way to the bus stop, and she was there all alone in the dark. So what she did was she had her right hand over her pistol, which was in her purse, and by the time she knew it, someone came up behind her, took her purse, and she yelled at him, "Stop! You're not gonna take my paycheck or my tips tonight." So as she looked down, she noticed that she had her pistol in her right hand. She shot towards the thief's direction, hitting him 6 times in the back. She was convicted of manslaughter at the time, and so she went to court. The judge then asked her, "Why did you shoot this guy 6 times in the back, killing him?" She then responded, "Well, because when I squeezed my trigger the 7th time, it only went click." Then the judge realized that it was at self-defense. She tried to defend herself, and the charges were then dropped, and she then returned to work the following day. An example of the Second Amendment would have to be by a fellow individual by the name of Joe Horn. Joe Horn had lived in the neighborhood, and it turns out like his neighbor was being broken into. He then called 911, and the dispatcher said to him, "Stay in your house." Joe Horn then responded, "I have a shotgun. Do you want me to go in there? I have a shotgun. I have the..." With that being said, the dispatcher replied, "No, stay inside. Don't get shot. You don't know if these people are armed and dangerous. You don't know if they're armed." Joe Horn then said, she's like, "There's 2 of them. They have a crowbar. That's what they used to break into the window." So Joe Horn was there on the line with the dispatcher for a total of about 8 minutes, and the police never showed up. The dispatcher just kept kind of dragging along, telling him to stay in his house, not to come out, to protect his family, and so forth. Robbers then jumped out of the house with a bag full of personal belongings from the neighbor. He then took it upon himself to take action. He walked outside of his house, cocked his shotgun with the dispatcher on the line, and he yelled, "Stop! Don't shoot! Stop! Stop! I'm gonna shoot!" And then shortly after, there was 2 shotguns. There's 2 shots from a shotgun that Joe Horn held, and shortly after, there was a 3rd shot. 20 seconds later, after all this had happened, the police show up, detaining Joe Horn, telling him to remain on the ground. He then also went to court, and all charges were dropped because it was in an act of self-defense. Yes, he did shoot the thieves in the back, but it was an act of self-defense, and no action should be taken if you're defending yourself. That's the way I see it. Another example would have to be a home invasion that took place in Georgia. There was a lady who had her kids with her, both of them who were 9 years old, and there's a man trying to enter their house. Him not knowing that there was people still in there, he decided to break in. Right as soon as he broke in, the lady decided to unload her handgun at him, shooting him 5 times in the face. I don't know, somehow magically he was able to get into his car and drive away and crash into the nearest tree, like her neighbor's tree or something like that. And once the police finally showed up, they took the man to the hospital, and they decided to like now he's like on like life support, like not really life support, but he can't breathe like without a machine or anything like that. So that's what happened there. There's another example took place in East Central Texas. It is known as the Luby Massacre. Um, they killed 23 people and wounded 20. What happened was there was a man who decided to drive his Ford Ranger pickup into the middle of Luby's, and Luby's has a sign saying that you cannot walk in there without your pistol or something like that. So Suzanne Hump left her pistol in her seat of her car. As all this occurred, all this situation, all this massacre happened, her father then tried stopping the killer, and in doing so, the killer shot him. So her mom fell onto her knees, holding on to her husband, and then the killer then shot him as well. I mean, shot her as well. So Suzanne, in the point of all this, in the point of action of all this, Suzanne reached into her purse to pull out her handgun, but then she realized that her pistol was 100 feet away from her, which when she had left it in her car. If she was able to have her sidearm in that restaurant, well then she could easily taking a point of action and shooting the killer. But since this was happened, it was just the killer, his gun, and everyone else around him at will. So she then decided to try to pass the law about your concealed handgun weapon, or she tried to push it more. And she pushed it towards the Supreme Court and so forth. And George W. Bush actually approved that law, which is now why we have our concealed handgun license. I myself have my concealed handgun carry license, which justifies that I can carry my gun with me on my side at all times, as long as I don't have any sort of paper or documentation up there. The documentation is actually called the 51% law, which justifies that the business makes over 51% of their profits selling alcohol. So you cannot walk in there, which with that being said, a bar or so forth, because they're taking the concealed handgun class. They tell you that alcohol and guns don't mix, so people try to stay away from that. So which is why you can't really carry your sidearm in a business like that. In the process of getting your concealed handgun license, there's a lot of steps that need to be followed, tests that need to be passed, and so forth. One of them is your fingerprinting. You are required to take your fingerprints just for them to be able to just so you could pass 2 background checks. One of them is a shallow background check, and another one's a pretty deep background check. Pretty much saying you're not a criminal, you're not allowed in any drug trafficking and so forth. And if you are an applicant for one of those things, well, then you cannot pass that exam to get your concealed handgun license. Another one is, so there's actually another law called the what's it called, the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. That pretty much justifies the fact that you're able to carry your concealed handgun license and everything I just said about getting your background checked and so forth, about if you've been convicted of crimes, if you're a fugitive of justice, unlawful user of controlled substance, stuff like that. And I myself, yes, I know right now, a lot of bad accidents have happened about, the Virginia Tech shooting, that shooting that happened in the movie theater. Yes, that, all that is bad, but I mean, it's that phrase everyone tends to say, or that quote is, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And I think if maybe we decided to maybe do a better background check, or or maybe frequent drug testing, or some sort of something that'll kind of keep the people on edge, hey, I can't be doing this if I'm gonna go buy a firearm or whatever, because anybody can go out and buy a gun if you have the money for it. But if we were to kind of follow up along with most of that stuff, try to make the background check a little better, I think most of that stuff would kind of be reduced to a minimum of like accidents that may happen, like high school shootings and so forth. Maybe more security, something like that. It's like little things like that will help us in the long run. But I don't think they should get rid of our Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms. Thank you.